You're live, Aaron.
You're live. So how's everybody today? Good. So I'm here on behalf of the Lake Alfred Historic Society. And this building here is very old, and people have lived here, and it's gone through a lot of things through history. So I just wanted to come and let you guys know a little bit about the history of this building that you live in. So you know exactly what used to happen at this building at different times in different years. So this building, was it called Lake Alfred Hotel? Or was it Lake Alfred, Hotel Lake Alfred? There was the Hollister Inn. So it had many different names that it could be. What about Lakeview House? Or were these all the same building and just different names? We had many questions about the historic hotel, and we decided to take the time to find out the answers. Many historic newspapers, articles were used to put together the following timeline of the historic journey that this building has been in. The Florida Fruitlands Company, a real estate and land development company, was established here in 1911 by a group of North Dakota businessmen and was headed by Frank C. Gardner. The company's goal was to turn the area into a beautiful little town surrounded by flourishing citrus groves, to sell the divided properties to those interested in investing in the citrus industry. Advertisements for the properties were placed mostly in newspapers in northern United States, and with a very firm stipulation that no land would be sold to anyone sight unseen. So you couldn't buy the land unless you came down here to actually look at it. A hotel was needed for these people, potentially buyers that would be buying a different property. The Fruitlands Company provided the land for the first hotel building and probably also funded the construction of the building as well. Our city's first known hotel is the Lakeview House. Now, it opened its door in May 1911. It was located on the southwest corner of Main Street and North Seminole Avenue, and was ideally situated directly across the street from the Florida Fruitlands office with an easy walking distance to the railroad depot. So everybody was able to catch the train if they needed to. The Lakeview House was managed by Mrs. Mamie A. McCall and her son, Edward W. McCall, until 1914. So you go from 1911 all the way to 1914. And other managers included a Mr. and Mrs. Turner in 1916, Mrs. Clara D. Bryan in 1918. So as you're moving through the years, Mrs. Emma Thomas in 1919, I should say. That is the last known information regarding the Lakeview House. Now, according to the Industrial Development and Manufacturers Record, this is from 1917, the Florida Fruitlands Company began accepting bids that year to erect a 3-story hotel in Lake Alfred, which this building happens to be a 3-story, at an estimated cost of only $90,000 back then. But back then, that was a fortune. The building was wood frame structure, sheeted with metal laid and stucco, and covered by composition roof, and interior featured wood and tile floors, steamed heat, and electric elevator. The hotel was designed and architect Anthony Elliott of Tampa, Florida. So it was a Tampa-based company that was doing all the plans for the hotel. Now, it's a view of the Main Street in about 1914. The Florida Fruitlands Company office can be seen in the picture here, and I'll be passing a book around for people to look at as well. So you can see the different pictures. And on the right side of the photo, across the street from the Fruitlands office and behind the white fence is the Lakeview House. You'll see that back in the picture. And it was a winter resort from 1922, stated that the inn could be accommodated up to 50 guests, and fares were about $80.55 for the season, which ran from December through April. So they paid just that amount to be able to stay for that length of time. A unique turn of events brought the hotel a bit notoriety in the spring of 1924. The Chicago White Sox baseball team arrived in Florida for spring training, because they used to come down here all the time for spring training. expecting to stay the newly built Haven Hotel in Winter Haven, but completion of the Haven Hotel had been delayed. So the building was not ready to accommodate the team. So the guests quickly made arrangements for the team and had their main accommodations were secured in our Hollister Inn. A bus transported the team to Winter Haven every day for their practice, back and forth. It was reported that the team enjoyed their stay in the inn. Evenings were spent playing card games and listening to the phonograph in the lobby. So they were able to have a little bit of fun, sitting there playing in the lobby, listening to music and playing some games. In June of 1924, the Hollister Inn was sold to a northern company who made plans to triple the size of the building. So they had big plans to make it a lot bigger. The following year, construction began on an addition with an estimated cost of $150,000.
My husband is
Price company, a real estate
telling us about the building,
in the hotel and began
telling us about the history of this building.
Across the street from the hotel. And so that's all happening right here. In addition to the hotel, remained the Lake Alfred Hotel, was completed in the spring of 1926. The hotel now included 75 rooms, each with a connecting bath and dining room could be accommodated up to 250 people, and an outdoor patio was also added to the building in an effort to attract winter visitors and offer a resort-style establishment in a Turkish bath, and was added hunting and fishing were also available for the guests. Mr. Robert Gabriel became the new manager, and his wife, Daisy, managed the kitchen in the hotel. Now, by 1929, the hotel was owned by the Lake Alfred Hotel Corporation. Now, this was under the direction of Dr. C.W. Adams of Lake Alfred. Now, this was back in 1938, so we're moving slowly. We keep moving forward, and the lake house was sold to J.H. Chamberlain of Lakeland, previously of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The selling price is not known, but the building was appraised at about $167,000, and that's all the way back in 1936. Leatherhead from May of 1941 referred to the hotel as the Hotel Lake Alfred. Now, as part of the Motorway Taverns Corporation of America, Chamberlain served as vice president of that company, and Mr. Andrews R. Dole was the president of the company. Now, the local residence manager at the time was Mr. Frank House. Now, a 1947 brochure read the following. So they're getting advertisements in that brochure that were passed out. This is what they read. The Hotel Lake Alfred affords the comforts and conveniences of modern city hotel with all the restful charm of an old country inn. A letter from a guest confirms that statement, and he tells the folks back home a wonderful time he was having in the hotel. Now, the Hotel Lake Alfred also remained part of Mr. Chamberlain's hotel chain until 1951, as we keep on moving forward, when the hotel was sold to the Fellowship Center Retirement Home Group for $100,000, thus ending the use as the hotel. Mr. Fred Kaler served as the last manager of the hotel. The Fellowship Center Group was headquartered in Ormond Beach, Florida. There were also renovated another former hotel building for use as a retirement home. The Lake Alfred building would serve as the company's second retirement home. Mr. C.A. Madley was head organization of the group and manager of the retirement home until his death in 1953, and his wife Ruth took over management of the hotel and the retirement facility now at that particular time in history. Now, another thing that's pretty much the history of this building. So one thing I want to ask is, who was alive back in that type of age? Like anybody here even from 1936 or anything like that? No? Okay. Well, that's a long time ago. Now, another thing that also happened in Lake Alfred is there was a history of historical bank robberies. So it's a whole different topic. But in Lake Alfred, there were robberies, bank robberies, a long time ago as well. So that's something that always fascinates people. The Lake Alfred State Bank was established in 1920. That's actually February 27, 1920. With its temporary headquarters in Florida Fruit Banks Company, it was organized as an independent local bank, with all stockholders being residents, businessmen, and grove owners in Lake Alfred. So they all had a part in it and all had a piece in the puzzle. The stockholders were Dr. C.W. Adams, J.M. Kirschlow, E.L. Fomack, and Frank C. Gardner, Frank Goodman Alexander, McKay, and 13 others. Jim M. Kershaw was named president of the bank, and E.L. Fomack was the first cashier. Construction of the bank's permanent home, located at the corner of Seminole Avenue and Palmetto, was completed a few months after the bank's establishment. The name was changed to the American Bank Lake Alfred in 1930. The Lake Alfred's Little Bank building has been subject to several robberies throughout the years. The following stories have been gathered from newspaper articles and time of the events, all the different things that have happened back then. So we have one of them, we'll call him the lone robber, escapes, but loot is recovered. So back in June 18, 1926, started out as a typical day for bank cashier William Neely. He was working alone in the Lake Alfred State Bank when a man entered shortly after the bank opened. The man approached Neely, pointed a revolver, and ordered him to stick up his hands. Neely did not immediately respond, and the words were repeated, adding a command to turn and face the wall. As Neely turned, he claimed 2 shots were fired. So the robbers shoot a couple more rounds. Then the local residents had noticed 2 strangers driving this very car in the city for a few days prior to the robbery, and they were very alarmed to know and see the car fleeing the bank. Neely was found unconscious in the bank in a pool of blood. The doctor was summoned, and Neely was treated for jagged cuts caused by a blow to his head with the pipe. When Neely regained consciousness, he reported that he had been shot, but the doctor did not find any bullet wounds and penetrations on the street at the time of the robbery, reported hearing no shots. Lake Alfred resident David Rowe, a former Polk County deputy sheriff, immediately went after the speeding Super 6 by following its tracks, which went off-road about 3 miles north of the city. The cash was found hidden in a clump of palmetto bushes. Nearby, Mr. Neely's description of the unmasked robber was immediately wired across the state. In nearly July, Neely positively identified a photograph of A.J. Baker was the robber. A statewide search began, and Baker was spotted in Indianatown, Florida. Detective Joe Carter, chief of police in Miami, went to Indiantown to arrest the suspect, but he was too late. Baker had disappeared by the time Carter arrived. Baker was apprehended a few days later in Columbus, Georgia, and was charged with both the Lake Alfred robbery and 2 bank robberies in Tennessee. On July 8th, the Polk County Deputy Sheriff, along with J.L. Fonts, president of the Lake Alfred State Bank, left for Columbus to pick up the suspect. So back in fall of 1926, A.J. Baker was convicted of robbing the Lake Alfred State Bank. On November 7th, his attorney asked for a new trial on the grounds that the verdict was contrary evidence presented. He stated there were 25 people in DeSana, Alabama, who were willing to swear that A.J. Baker was in DeSana on that day and not in Lake Alfred when the Lake Alfred robbery occurred. Judge H.K. Ophia granted a new trial, and Baker's bond was set at $10,000. On January 22nd, 1927, the charges against Baker were dismissed in connection with the Lake Alfred robbery. The prosecution was now convinced they had the wrong man, but Baker was held in Polk County Jail at the request of Illinois police officers in connection with a robbery there. So he was a busy guy. When Baker was brought into court to hear the dismissal of Lake Alfred case by the judge Shepard Holland Baker asked the judge if he would perform a marriage ceremony for Baker and his fiancee, who was also a prisoner in the county jail. Judge Howland agreed and ordered the fiancee to be brought into the courtroom where the performed ceremony for them. Afterward, the two prisoners were returned to their separate cells. It was later discovered that Baker was already married to a woman in Illinois. It appeared that Baker had planned and was hoping to be charged with a bigamy in Polk County in an attempt to avoid the Illinois robbery charge. His plan did not work, and he was extradited to Illinois on January 28th. No other information was found subsequent arrest in the case. And it just goes to show a lot of different things that happened in Lake Alfred. But that does give you a little bit of history of the building, gives you some history about banking and robberies in the town and different things like that. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope you guys have a very wonderful day. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Questions?
Where was the patio at?
What's that?
Where was the patio located at?